Hello, my name is Bonnie Roswig. I'm an attorney with the Center for Children's Advocacy. Today, we're going to be talking about help for Connecticut families with utility programs. I'm assisted today by my colleague, Tiffany Middicom from the Center for Children's Advocacy. Next slide, please. So our conversation today is going to talk about not only utility law in Connecticut, but why utilities are so important for families and the protections and programs that can help people. As a caveat, it is important to know that this presentation is only relevant to the state of Connecticut. Every state has their own utility laws, and so if you are from out of state, please contact your local utility agency for the laws that apply to you. Also, this presentation is relevant to today, December of 2022. Utility laws and protections change, and so as time goes on, the laws I'm discussing may modify. Again, if you have questions or aren't sure of the status of the law, please contact me or the Connecticut Public Utilities Regulatory Authority. So why are utilities so important? Obviously, it's a fundamental basic need. And in fact, many leases require that you have utility service so that you can stay in your house or apartment. And not having utilities can threaten the end of your lease if you are in subsidized housing and you could lose your subsidy. Also, if you have involvement with the Department of Children and Families, they're looking for housing stability, and having heat and lights in a house is very important to them. Finally, every child, in order to be successful in school, needs lights and needs heat. So utilities are a very important part of everyone's life. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we have been working on, the advocacy community in Connecticut, is making sure that every household has utilities that are affordable. And we have made these presentations to the State Utility Commission. Again, in Connecticut, it's called the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority. And at the moment, we have a utility commissioner that's very understanding of the needs and the realities of families in Connecticut. Her name is Marissa Gillette, and she has said that with the availability of hardship protections, again, and these are the programs that I'll talk about in the presentation that protect Connecticut families, and the COVID-19 payment plan, which was a special program during COVID, there is no reason for any customer service to be terminated or turned off due to a delinquent or back balance. So even the state of Connecticut understands the importance of utility services and has worked hard to make sure that there are programs and protections in place so that any Connecticut family can afford their electric and heat bill. And again, today's presentation is relevant to what we call state-regulated heat and lights. So it is not relevant to oil, delivery, or propane. Next slide, please. So Connecticut's programs and protections are actually part of the state law. And the first one I'm going to discuss is our hardship or winter protection law. And what that law says is that from November 1st to May 1st, no electric company can terminate or turn off, deny, or refuse to turn back on electric service in hardship cases, that's people who have financial challenges, where the customer lacks the financial resources to pay his or her entire account. Next slide, please. So what does this mean? This protection runs every year from November 1st to May 1st. Who's eligible? People with financial challenges. And that's defined as anyone whose total household income is 60% of what we call the median income in Connecticut, or approximately $76,000 a year for a family of 4. What this law does for people is that if your electric service has been turned off, it must be turned back on. And just because you have a back bill doesn't mean that the electric company doesn't have to turn your service back on. Now, the thing that everyone needs to know is that every month, you still are going to get a new utility bill, a new electric bill, even though they can't shut off your service. But they can't shut you off if you can't afford to make the payments during this, what we call moratorium, which again runs from November 1st to May 1st. Now, however, this protection is over as of May 2nd, and therefore, if you are very behind on your bill, you haven't been able to make payments on your payment plan, the utility company can shut off your service with appropriate notification. Next slide, please. We have a very similar law that applies to electric or gas heat. And what that law, again, very similar to the electric protection, from November 1st to May 1st, the gas company cannot shut off, deny, or refuse to turn back on your home gas service in hardship cases where the customer uses gas for heat and lacks the financial resources to pay his or her entire account. Next slide, please. So again, very similar to electricity, this protection runs from November 1st to May 1st. It is for financially challenged gas service customers whose income is under that 60% of state median. There is a small difference. And the difference is that if your gas service has been turned off before November 1st, it is just not immediately turned back on because you let the gas company know that you are a person with financial challenges. The customer has to pay $100, 20% of the arrearage, or make a payment on a payment plan. Usually that $100 is the smallest amount, and many times people can get assistance from community agencies to make that $100 payment, and we will talk about that more later in the presentation. Again, like electric service, if the gas company knows that you are a financially challenged person, they cannot shut you off between November 1st and May 1st. Just because you have a large back bill doesn't mean that you don't get this protection. And again, even though your service cannot be shut off during the winter moratorium, every month you get a new heat bill, and you should, to the extent possible, be paying on that bill. Next slide, please. So what does it mean to be a hardship customer covered by the protections of the law? Well, it's anyone who receives state or federal public assistance. So that's SNAP or food stamps, Husky health insurance, cash assistance from the state, Social Security or SSI, veterans benefits, unemployment, or even someone whose income is less, 60% or less than that state median income. So you can be working, but not really earning enough money to fully support you and your family, and you will be eligible very likely for this hardship protection. And when they make a determination of whether someone is eligible for hardship protection, they count the income of all members of the household. Next slide, please. So how does someone get this hardship protection? Well, the first thing a customer has to do is call the company directly. Now, Ultimately, as we'll discuss, you have to provide documentation to the utility company that you're eligible for this protection, but it can sometimes take a while to gather the paperwork to do this. So at the point that you call the company and say, I am a person with financial challenges, based on my income and the fact that I get benefits, I think I'm eligible for this hardship protection. The company is required by law to temporarily code your account for 60 days. So even with doing nothing or providing no paperwork, you're eligible for this protection for 60 days to give you the opportunity to get in your paperwork. You have to show the utility company that you are eligible. And how do you do this? You can do this by providing your food stamp budget, information from Social Security showing the amount that you get in Social Security Disability or SSI or Husky, or pay stubs that show that you are a low-income person. And you can verify this by sending this information directly to the utility company, either by email or mail, or uploading it to their website, or through your local community action agency. And to get information about how to contact that local community action agency, you can either call your utility company, call your town, or even call 211 info line, and they will direct you as to the correct agency. Next slide, please. There are several programs, several affordable payment programs for customers who have been designated for this hardship or winter protection. And there are different programs for heat and for lights. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the program for heat, and they are called our matching payment programs. So under the matching payment program, the customer is required to only pay what's called their average monthly bill. Your average monthly bill is your new bill every month, how much heat service you use every month. Now, for people who have a back bill, they don't have to pay anything on the back bill. And in fact, a part of this matching payment program is called the Arrearage Forgiveness Program. And that means that every time you make your new monthly payment, the gas company subtracts that amount from your back bill. So for example, if your new bill every month is $100 and your back bill is $1,000, that $100 that you pay towards your new bill is subtracted from your back bill, and now you only owe $900. As long as you make your new payment every month, you will continue to be in that program, and the company will continue to subtract your ongoing payments from your back bill. Again, but you have to stay current on your current payments. And you can sign up for that program between November 1st and May 1st. Next slide, please. Now, there is even a more affordable part of the matching payment program, and that's called the below budget program. Again, this program is for gas or electric heat customers, and as long as your income is from any state or federal program, so again, that's food stamps or SNAP, Husky, cash assistance from the state, SSI, veterans benefits, unemployment, etc., your monthly bill is only $50. It doesn't matter what the actual bill is. This program is developed so that it would be affordable for you, so that you're able to make the monthly payments every single month. As long as you pay that $50 every month, you don't have to worry about the back bill in terms of keeping on your service and being consistent and successful in the program. And just like the matching payment program that I talked about in the slide before this one, every time you make a payment, that money is subtracted from your back bills. The key here is to make the payments each and every month. And because it's part of the matching payment program, you can sign up for that program between November 1st and May 1st every year. Next slide, please. Now, a requirement of those matching payment programs is that the customer applies for what we call the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program, or Energy Assistance, or SEAP. That is a program that provides money to you that goes towards your back heat bill. You have to go to your local community action agency, and as I discussed earlier, you can find which one is appropriate, and which one you go to depends on where you live. Call your town, call your utility company to be directed as to where to go. And they will give, based on your total household income and the number of people in your family, they will provide monies that go towards your back heat bill. That money goes directly to the utility company, but is applied to your back bill. And you can sign up for that program between November 1st and May 1st. But remember, in order to continue in those matching payment programs, you must apply for and get energy assistance. Next slide, please. Now, there are separate programs for electricity. Excuse me. And these programs are matching payment programs, again, through UI and through Eversource. The amount that you pay every month is your average monthly bill. And that is, excuse me, the amount of electric service that you use each and every month. As long as you pay that new bill that you get every month, your back bill will be paid off over 12 months. So, excuse me. So again, say your monthly bill is $100 and you owe $1,200. As long as you pay that $100 each and every month, 1/12 of your back bill will be forgiven. So that, and for everyone, regardless of how much the back bill is, after 1 year, as long as you make your payments each and every month, that back bill will go away. The nice thing about this program is you can sign up for it all year long. It's not limited to that November 1st to May 1st. And the other nice thing about this program is even though there may have been a month where you didn't make a payment, weren't able to make a payment, you can re-enroll in this program. Next slide, please. There is another program for people who may not be financially eligible for the matching payment programs for heat and light that I just discussed. And this is for what we call our non-hardship customers. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there was something called the COVID-19 payment plan. That was a program that was developed understanding that regardless of who you are or what your income is, COVID posed financial challenges that were unprecedented. We now have something called the flexible payment plan, and that replaces the COVID-19 payment plan. And the way that program works is that the customer pays their average monthly bill and a portion of their back bill. And you have 18 months to pay off that back bill. So in other words, regardless of how much you are behind, that amount is broken up into 18 parts, and you just pay your average monthly bill plus 1/18 of the back bill. Next slide, please. So those are the payment plans for people with financial challenges. There's another part of the law in Connecticut that's what we call medical protections. And what that law says is that any electric or gas company cannot deny or refuse to turn back on electric or gas service where the customer lacks the financial resources to pay his or her bill, where the customer or a member of the customer's household, so that anyone who lives in the house, they cannot turn you off if the denial or failure to turn back on that service would create a life-threatening situation. Next slide, please. So what does that mean, and how do you get this life-threatening protection? This means that someone in the household requires heat or electric service based on their medical condition. The one that makes the determination as to whether someone is eligible for medical protection is either the physician, the APRN, or the physician's assistant. And there is no laundry list of what makes someone eligible for medical protection. It is really an individualized determination. What is the patient's medical condition, and how does that medical condition relate to the need for gas or electric service? The requirement is that it creates a life-threatening situation. And whereas the other programs I discussed earlier in the presentation are based on total household income, this program is based on an individual's medical condition, not on income. Next slide, please. So what's an example of a life-threatening situation? Well, a very obvious one is that the patient needs medical equipment that requires electricity, so something like an oxygen machine. There are some patients that have chronic conditions and they require stable household temperatures, such as patients with sickle cell disease. Some patients have medication that needs to be refrigerated, like insulin. And then other patients have such severe mental or behavioral health issues that they require electricity or stable household income to keep them safe and to keep them out of the hospital. Next slide, please. So how does a patient or a household get this medical protection? The patient has to go through the healthcare provider. The patient asks the utility company or the doctor to request the form that the healthcare provider completes to access that medical protection. The medical provider completes the form and sends it back to the utility company through the utility company's usually online portal. This is not a form that can be submitted by the patient. It has to be done by the doctor, and the communication is exclusively between the utility company and the healthcare provider. Next slide. Now, and that service, that medical protection can go throughout the year, so 12 months a year. There is a second type of medical protection, and whereas the first one we discussed was a life-threatening situation, this is called serious illness. And again, the healthcare provider has to make a designation that the patient or someone in the utility customer's household has a serious illness or a life-threatening illness. Serious illness designation protects the patient from termination of electricity or heat only between November 1st and May 1st. So it's more limited than that life-threatening protection. And it only happens and so the time frame is identical to the winter or hardship moratorium. Next slide, please. Now, There is a third protection, and it's what we call infant protection. And this applies to children under 24 months of age. This program is based on total household income. So again, it's that 60% of median income, anyone on state or federal benefits, etc. It is for children or babies who are being discharged from the hospital. And the determination is that electric or gas service is necessary for the child's health and well-being. The way to get that protection is again the same as life-threatening situation or serious illness. The patient has to make the request to the medical provider. The utility company provides the form, and the medical provider completes the form and submits it directly to the utility company. Next slide, please. Finally, and very quickly, a support for Connecticut residents is something called our energy efficiency programs. There are what we call audits, home energy solutions for income eligible customers. There is no charge, again, for customers whose income is under 60% of the state median income. The only challenge here is that the utility companies require the landlord's consent before they come into your apartment and do an energy audit. And again, they're looking at whether you're using energy efficient light bulbs, shower heads, whether windows can be secured. But it is the position of the advocacy community that consent is not required by the landlord. And the State Utility Commission is sensitive to the fact that it is difficult for low-income tenants to access energy efficiency programs. Next slide, please. So that's my presentation for today, and thank you so much for listening. In order to get additional assistance, my contact information is at the end of these slides. You can also get financial assistance if it's available from Operation Fuel, and the number is on the slide. As I said, you can contact your community action agencies for assistance and certainly for energy assistance. If you have complaints or concerns about your utility companies, I urge you to call the State Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, and the number is on the slide. And if you need additional direction, you can always call 211 info line. Final slide, please. Thank you so much for attending today. If you have questions or concerns, you're welcome to contact me at the contact information below. Thank you again.